Recently, KTM has dropped the cubic capacity of this bike from 398 to 350. They have also dropped the prices by about 60,000. The chassis has great potential, but the choice of tire is wrong. The difference between the KTM Adventure 390 and the Duke 390 is just about 3,000 rupees.
You accelerate the bike hard, upshift, accelerate it again, you'll see that the steering slightly shakes.
MRF has slightly lower grip. I would suggest. I don't think the tech package on any other bike justifies or matches up to the Duke 390. This bike is definitely not for people who are above 5'8" or 5'10". If you have to flick the bike rapidly, there is more effort required than the competition.
Should I pay that extra money and go ahead with the 390cc?
The KTM Duke 390 has been a dream bike to a lot of people, including myself. Recently, KTM has dropped the cubic capacity of this bike from 398 to 350. In the process, they have also dropped the prices by about 60,000 rupees. In a lot of ways, the 350cc feels better than the 398cc. Is this dream bike actually compromised now, or is it better value for money? Today, we will go through different attributes of this bike to understand and finalize whether this is the dream bike that we have always thought of, or is there a huge compromise in what KTM has made.
For people who are considering the latest Duke 350, there will be one question that will be in their head, which is, should I pay that extra money and go ahead with the 390cc, or can I go with this 350cc bike? For people who have not ridden the 398cc before or have not owned it, if you're coming from a lower cc bike onto this one, I don't think it will make a huge difference for you. Definitely, there is a drop in power and drop in torque. The drop in power is about 4.5 to 5 bhp, and the drop in torque is also along the similar lines. Now, while there is a drop, the previous Duke also had this problem where the low end torque was slightly lower, and you had to keep the bike at slightly higher revs. Now, the same applies here as well. There is no change there. In terms of the way it delivers power at higher RPM, this is very good. The way it flies after 4,500-5,000 RPM, it is smooth going. There is refinement in the engine. Now, all of that has stayed. So, considering this from an engine perspective and from the spec perspective, where you are comparing the power and torque, to own this bike, I don't think you should think twice. Now, let's check out the engine. The engine has been downsized from 398cc to a 349cc now. They've done this by reducing the stroke of the vehicle. Since they've reduced the stroke, what we are seeing is there is a bit of low end torque compromise. And in terms of the overall figures also, the torque has slightly reduced. There is about 5.5 Newton meter lower torque than you would see on the 398cc. Now, is this something that is of a problem? To be honest, the previous Duke also struggled at lower RPMs, and this Duke is no exception. In terms of how it delivers the torque, above 3000 RPM or 3500 RPM, it feels like the engine is smooth. But below that, it slightly struggles. There is a sort of a resistance. But as soon as you cross the 3,500-4,000 RPM, it glides very well.
Now let's talk about the gearbox of this bike. KTMs have always had a different and peculiar gearbox. The transition between the first and second gear is very evident, and finding neutral has always been a problem on the Dukes. It is no different here, but that is something that you will get used to, and with precise and finer touch, you will be able to find neutral on this bike. In terms of clutch feel, the clutch is light. Handling this in the city will be slightly easier compared to the other competition that is there. And the slip and assist clutch on the KTM, especially the Dukes, have been better than most of the benchmark vehicles.
There are a couple of more interesting aspects to this engine. For example, if you look at the exhaust pipe, you see that there are two O2 sensors. O2 sensors are sensors that are generally required to measure the air fuel ratio. It tells how rich or how lean the engine is running. But when most bikes have just one O2 sensor, you'll see that the Duke has two O2 sensors today. This is because the O2 sensor that is closer to the exhaust has higher measurement possibilities, like it is closer to the engine, so it is an indication of the right AFR mixture. But what happens is there is a lot of variations as well. Now, this provides additional information to the ECU to ensure that the air fuel mix is right. And this presents an interesting problem. let's say you want to upgrade your exhaust and put some aftermarket alternatives. This becomes very tricky now. The aftermarket exhaust that you have should have provisions to have these two O2 sensors. And even if they do, the chances that you will have an engine that runs as well as this is still questionable.
In terms of the acceleration figures, how the engine is putting down power to the wheel, what torque you are seeing at the wheel, we will do that. We will check that out by installing our data logger. We will crunch the numbers and we will show what are the acceleration numbers you'll be able to expect from this machine. In terms of acceleration, I got a couple of clean runs and I was able to do 0 to 60 in about 3.8 seconds and 0 to 100 in about 7.7 seconds. I'll leave the table here for you to check it out. Before we move on to the next section, I'd like to share something with you. 98% of our viewers have not subscribed to our channel. If you have found any value from this video and if you are one of the people who have not subscribed, please take a moment to subscribe. It will cost you nothing, but it will keep us motivated to bring the best automotive content in front of you. Now, on with the episode. As fast as the Duke 390 is, it's always been supported well by the brakes. Now, if you look at these Brembo brakes on the front, this is a large 320 mm rotor here, and it is supported by a radially mounted caliper. Now, this radially mounted caliper offers very good feedback from the front end, and you look at the way the brake mount is designed, that is good engineering. And the brakes along with the suspensions give you good feedback when you're getting hard on the brakes, especially on the front. The rear is slightly different though. Let's go towards the rear. The rear brake in conjunction with the engine braking behaves slightly different here. Let's say you go hard on the front brake without using the rear brakes. What I felt was the engine wanted to push the bike slightly forward. When I used the rear brake to control that feeling, the overall bike felt more stable. If somebody else felt the same, let me know in the comment section. I'm not sure if this is one-off or if this is something that is consistent with the Dukes. In terms of the overall stopping power and the feedback from the brakes, both the front and rear brakes are very good. Now let's talk about the handling on this bike. The Dukes have always been an agile and nimble bike, and this is no different, but this does some things that are very well compared to its predecessors. When you are going into corners, you'll see that this 390, especially because of the tires, you'll see that you think about turning into a corner, this bike has already done it. It falls into a corner and maintains a steady state. If you roll into a corner and if you're trying to maintain a lean, this bike actually gives you a great opportunity to turn the bike in and maintain your lean angles. But one thing that is slightly difficult is when you're committed to a lean, if you have to pick it back up, there is slightly more effort that you have to put in. Now, why is this happening? This is happening predominantly because of the tires. Now, the Duke 390 runs the Apollo Alphas. It runs the 110/70 on the front and 150/60 on the rear. These are 17-inch tires. But what you have to observe is the tire profile. Now, let me move to the side. So, if you look at the tire profile, you see a center slightly flat patch, and then you look at the way it rolls off. The roll off is actually very significant. Now, this roll off, what it does is when you are maintaining a straight line, when you lean the bike slightly, it will tend to tip more in. Now, this character is actually preferred in some areas. For example, if you are on the track, if you have to flick the bike into and out of corners well, this offers good feedback and good results there. In fact, when we compared the lap times in MMRT between the stock MRF that was coming back then and the Apollos were actually faster by 2 seconds. While this is a great tire to have on the track, in regular city riding, it offers one small problem, which is actually two small problems. One, when you are trying to maintain low speed straight line maneuver, which is you are trying to go in a low speed and you are in a straight line, if you give small inputs, the bike will tend to tip here and there. Because of that, you will see that the steering corrections is slightly higher. Now, the second, is where, let's say you are in a corner, you're already leaned in. If you have to pick the bike up, make it straight, you will have to push slightly harder on the outer handlebar, which is, it is not so easy to pick the bike back up. It has a tendency to keep the bike leaned in and in the direction of lean. Now, this is something that requires a slight skill update. You should study about counter steering and how counter steering works. And if you use counter steering well on this bike, you will find that this is an easy to ride vehicle. Let me give you an example and explain how the handling on this bike feels. Imagine yourself, you are going in a straight line and then you are about to enter a corner which is a right hander. Now going into a corner, you will be straight, and as the corner approaches, you start leaning the bike. The moment you start leaning the bike, you will see that after a certain lean angle, which is about 20-25 degrees, the bike will automatically tip in an urgency. So it will fall more into the corner. Now, this is because of the tires, like I've explained before. And once it is leaned in right, the bike turns in very easily. Like the ability of the bike to rotate along the corner is very good. And while picking up the bike, you can either pick up the bike using the throttle, because as soon as you start getting on the throttle, the bike wants to pick itself up. But if at all you're not picking up the bike with the throttle, you will feel that it is slightly difficult to pick the bike up, because you'll have to put more effort in. You have to push harder on the outer handlebars to pick up the bike. Now, in terms of direction change, the bike has a tendency to go towards one corner, stay there. Now, if you have to flick the bike rapidly, there is more effort required than the competition. Now, this can be easily fixed using the tires. You can change the tires into probably MRF or Eurogrip. MRF has slightly lower grip. I would suggest the Eurogrip instead. With that, you can easily fix the handling issue. The handling on this bike is also supported well by the front suspensions, the chassis and the rear suspensions. Now, the front suspensions are adjustable. You have compression adjustment available on the left and rebound adjustment on the right. What it means, whenever the suspension is trying to compress, when it is going down, if you want it to go down slightly harder or softer, you can control that using the compression on the left. If you want to control the way it rebounds, the way it picks back up, now that control is available with the rebound damping here. Now you turn it clockwise in order to increase the rebound damping, and anti-clockwise if you have to reduce the rebound damping. The same is applied to the compression damping as well. Turn right to increase the compression damping and to the left to reduce it. The rear suspensions are offset here. On most bikes, you will see that the rear suspensions are placed in the center, but this one is offset to the right. The moment you do this offset is mainly done to ensure packaging. Okay. Now, because of this offset, KTM will have to over design the swing arm. The swing arm has to be much stiffer than what it was before. And I'm not sure if the phenomenon was because of this. You accelerate the bike hard, upshift, accelerate it again, you'll see that the steering slightly shakes. One reason why that could be, there are a lot of kinematic or geometry based forces that could be induced for this, but one of the reasons that this can happen is because of the offset rear suspension. Now, the rear suspension has a provision to control preload. You can turn this to control the preload of this bike. The preload does not change the stiffness. It will only ensure that your loading control can be different for different weights of rider. Depending on the weight of rider, you set it once and you can let it be. In terms of the damping control, you have this screw here. You turn it to the left, you get a softer setting, and you turn it to the right, you get a harder setting. Whether this controls rebound or compression or both is something that I'll have to check. But considering the position of the screw, this position generally indicates that you are controlling the rebound damping, and if compression damping was to be controlled, then the setting would be different. Now, what can I say about the design? The design of the Duke is something that I've always loved, but over the generation, they've made it more and more aggressive. Initially, this gap between the front headlight and the DRLs was something that I was not very sure about, but slowly it is growing on me. It feels like a design that is becoming more and more sharp to address or to dictate what this bike actually is, which is a sharp and agile handling machine. If you look at the proportions, I like the way The rear seat and the rider seat goes together. Design of the subframe where they've made it aluminum and they've exposed it is nicely done. The paint I feel could have been slightly different to showcase what it is capable of. There is no distinction that I see between this panel and this. This panel is slightly overshadowing the subframe here. If it was in a different way, or if the designer could have figured out a different way to show it to me, I think I would have liked that. There are a lot of details on this bike that have been very nicely designed and engineered. For example, the pillion foot pegs here and the mounts, very well optimized. You'll see the same in multiple areas. For example, the way the brake levers are designed and engineered, very good. If you look at the size of this frame around this section, I think previously it was wider, now they've reduced it. And there are multiple areas where the design and engineering has combinedly done well. There are a lot of sharp areas. For example, you see this fin kind of a design. Nicely done, nice touch that is. But I felt that the rear number plate bracket is slightly wide. If it were shorter, I would have loved it. Probably one of the things that you can do is take this off and put a nice tail tidy, and the overall rear section will look good. Speaking about the ergonomics on this bike is very comfortable. Like for someone who is 5'6", you can see that I can easily reach the ground with both feet. And the bike weighs about 168 kilos. However, it feels very light. It is not at all a problem to manage in the city. In terms of the H points, for example, if you look at the rider triangle, the foot, the seat point and the handlebars are in a way where the bike is slightly committed, but not too committed to give you back pain or a lot of discomfort. Overall, for the city, if your use case is 70% city and 30% highway, this is an excellent machine that you can buy. Once you hop onto the bike, you see this, it looks very premium. Like if you look at the quality of the buttons, if you look at what all is available, you have your cruise control here, you have your cruise control adjustments down here, which is you can increase the speed or reduce the speed. The horn, the tactile feedback could have been slightly better, but overall the quality of the cockpit is actually very nice. Now the display is something that KTM has done very well. The visibility is good. The way the information is organized is slightly cluttered. It will generally take you some time to get used to identifying what is where. Once you get there, it is fairly easy to read. One thing you have to be careful about is when you're cleaning this bike, there are multiple areas like the one here, and there are a couple of sharp edges in multiple areas on this bike where you have to be slightly careful. If not, you'll end up having scratches. If you're looking at comfort, the seat comfort is fairly good. It might feel slightly hard. Trust me, harder seats are generally better, especially if you're spending longer hours on the saddle. Harder seats do much better than softer ones. Looking at the rear seat, again as hard as the front, but there is good enough room, but still a little too tight. In terms of the comfort from the suspension, excellent comfort. It is very good for the city. On highways, the buzz is not so much compared to its 398cc equivalent. The vibration on this felt slightly lower. Probably that has to do with the reduction in stroke, but overall excellent machine for handling and city use. In comfort, fairly good. I don't have any complaints on this. Henny's Garage was started with an intent to help racers go faster around the racetrack. We want to use the expertise that we have built there to help you buy better products. So if you're looking for buying a motorcycle or car or accessories for it, you can always reach out to us on WhatsApp. The number and the link is in the description. Let's check out the quality of components using our knock-knock test. The bike is priced at 2.8 lakhs ex-showroom. In fact, the difference between the KTM Adventure 390 and the Duke 390 is just about 3,000 rupees. Now both have the same amount of tech on offer and the same engine as well. If your use case is predominantly city, 70% city and probably 30% highway, you can pick the Duke. If your use case is predominantly highway, then you can go for the Adventure. You can expect a fuel efficiency of about 23 to 26 kmpl within the city. And on the highways, you can expect between 28 to 32 kmpl, depending on how you ride. Here are 5 things that I love about this motorcycle. Number 1, the quick shifter. The quick shifter is one of the best I've experienced. Both the Adventure 390 and the Duke 390, in my opinion, have the best quick shifter on offer. And at this price point, I think there is nothing better. Number 2, the braking package is very good. The front rotors is actually a radially mounted caliper, and the braking is predictable and on point. Number 3, the tech package on offer at this price point is, I think, unmatched. The TFT screen, the quality of switchgear, the bidirectional quick shifter, the stance of the bike and the package, everything justifies the cost. Number 4, the 350cc bike is more refined than the previous 390. Number 5, at 2.8 lakh ex-showroom, the amount of value that this bike offers is unmatched. I don't think the tech package on any other bike or the power and torque on offer on any other bike justifies or matches up to the Duke 390. Here are 5 things that we hate about this motorcycle. Number 1, the low end torque and the amount of resistance that this bike offers in low speed. Number 2, the chassis has great potential, but the choice of tire is wrong. The amount of precision that I'm expecting out of this bike is not there just because of the tire. Number 3, if you are using this bike predominantly in the city and you take it out on highways, you'll see that there is little to no wind production and you might have to go for a few accessories to fix this. Number 4, the ergonomics for taller riders might be difficult on this bike. The seat is a little cramped, and for taller riders, Adventure 390 might be a better package. Number 5, the pillion seat is slightly short, and if you're wearing a backpack or if you have something to carry along with the pillion, then this becomes tricky. You should buy this bike. This bike is for someone who is anywhere between 5'4" to 5'10", who expects good power and is looking for a bike that offers great value for money in terms of both power and tech. Who should not buy this bike? This bike is not for someone who is expecting good low-end torque at city speeds. You should be okay with shifting gears every now and then. And this bike is definitely not for people who are above 5'8" or 5'10". Thank you for watching this video. If you've enjoyed this video, I'm sure you'll also enjoy the engineering breakdown of this bike. You can check that out. I'll see you in the next one. Until then, ride safe and Godspeed.